Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called The Most Important Thing. Many moons ago, when I was a younger lad, I started a new job. The place was a combination of retail and warehouse work. I'm the new guy, so all the bad jobs go to me, which is fine, including going around and emptying the garbage and recycling bins every morning. One morning, midway through the garbage rounds, I got pulled away by a customer that needed help. The help went long, and I totally forgot to finish the garbages. My bad. A coworker approaches me, totally not my boss. Just been there longer than anyone else and felt it her duty to manage everyone. I don't get a reminder to finish the garbages. I get a 5 to 10 minute lecture on how garbages are the most important thing to do in the mornings. Everything else is secondary until I get that done. Seems ridiculous to me, but I was new, so I just smiled and nodded. As luck would have it, several days later, I was in the middle of my garbage rounds once again, and the same coworker approaches me in a terrible hurry. I don't remember the exact why, but they needed help moving a bunch of boxes as someone was on their way to pick them up, and she needed me to drop what I was doing and help her. It was a perfect moment. I gave her a smile and said, "Sorry, I can't help you right now. I'm doing the garbages, and garbage is the most important thing in the mornings." She gave me a blank look and then stalked off. In a perfect world, I would end it with, "and she never bothered me again." Sadly, that was not the case. The next story is called Time Log. This happened a little while ago. I was a supervisor of a small team who were great at what they did. One payday, I had 3 worried staff members thinking payroll had cocked up and given them too much money. They hadn't. One of my guys came in 5 minutes late and got caught by one of the other managers, who told my boss, and it got round to me. "I want you to check their clock ins and clock outs and let me know so we can dock them anytime they weren't in on time." Now, I don't care. They were a great employee, got a ton of work done, and always stayed late if they needed to finish things off. Also, I don't want to even think about if that was legal or not. It didn't sit right with me. 2 things weren't in his favor right now. 1, he was being a tool. And 2, I'd already got another job lined up, which he didn't know about. So I didn't care. What next? I did as I was told, and I checked. A couple of minutes here or there, nothing major. I then checked all of the extra time they worked since they had started and ended it all up. I made sure to take out anything they had already claimed as overtime. I logged it in the system and approved and sent it over to finance myself. Then I checked my other guys' times as well and did the same thing. Turns out, my guys were extremely helpful and helped out in other areas when they could. The overtime went over certain time limits and tipped over from 1.5 times pay to 2 times pay. It added up to a lot. I delayed it a couple of days to make sure it all ran through and double checked with finance to make sure all was good. Then I called a meeting with my boss to let him know everything and hand him a letter. He was not pleased. Worth it. The third story is called No Mixed Loads. A few years ago, my mother-in-law's backyard fence needed repairing, so I undertook the task myself. About a half dozen of the wood timber posts had rotted at the ground level and needed to be dug out and replaced with fresh ones. So at the end of a long day, I had a truck filled with the dirt and gravel I had dug out at every post, plus the 6 rotten timbers on top. I drive to my local municipal dump. The dump has fees. Dirt is free. A single material dump is a flat fee of $10. Basically a single material that can be either composed or recycled, or a mixed load is $50 per ton. As you can imagine, I have, quite transparently, a whole lot of dirt, which should be free, and just a few timbers sitting on top, not mixed in. I pull up to the gate. Guy looks at my truck and says, "Mixed load," and charges me by the weight. I say to the guy, "Look, it's 90% dirt and just a few timbers. The dirt is free, you should just be charging me for the timbers." But he would have none of it. So right in front of him, I removed the timbers, walked them just outside the compound fence and put them on the side of the road, then walked back to my truck and said, "Dirt only." He let me in at no charge and I dumped my dirt. Then I went back out of the compound and put the timbers in my truck and pulled up to the gate. $10, he says, without an ounce of acknowledgement of the stupidity he just engineered. I drove in and dumped the timbers. and save $45. But Willie? The next story is called Let It Out in the Front. This happened a few years ago. At the time I was living with my then boyfriend, now ex, and our dog in a small home with a fenced backyard. We had gotten robbed that summer, and while luckily the burglar was caught and we got our valuables back, the lock on the sliding glass doors to the backyard was broken. In typical fashion, my ex promised he would fix it, but weeks ticked by with no repair. My boyfriend owned the house and wanted to do all these home ownership things himself. He refused to call a locksmith or let me call a locksmith or let me buy and fix the lock, but also never had the time to fix the lock himself. It was broken in a way that made it very hard to either lock or unlock. We would normally let our dog out in the backyard every morning to go to the bathroom, and during the week he would just deal with it. But it was really hard for me to shove open the broken lock every weekend morning while he slept in. Multiple weeks in a row I brought up the lock and how I couldn't let the dog out easily on early weekend mornings. He finally snapped at me one morning to just let her out front instead, like I was stupid for not thinking of this sooner. So I did, knowing full well the sprinklers were on in the front yard. They ran every weekend morning that early. Our pup happily went to the bathroom out front under a sprinkler shower and then bounded back into bed with him at 7 AM, soggy and wet. Boyfriend was mad. He fixed the lock the next week. The fifth story is called Building Codes. My lease is ending soon and my landlord has been showing my apartment to anyone with a pulse non-stop for months. During a couple of these showings my bedroom door was locked. The landlord got mad about this and told me he was coming to remove my bedroom door handle and replace it with a handle with no lock. He said city fire codes do not allow locks on interior doors and he wanted everything up to code for the new tenants. I responded that getting everything up to code was a great idea. I offered to schedule an inspection from the city so they could get all their maintenance done at once and really be sure things were ready for the new tenants. Best to do the whole building. I think I saw signs of rodents in the basement. Suddenly, building codes weren't so important. My bedroom door is now locked during all showings. The last story is called Why Would You Care? My dad started to work in his job about 50 years ago and he never changed it. He went through all the stages that came with it. First he was the post dude and would only deliver in-house messages. And then he slowly made his way up the food chain until about 15 years ago he became team lead of his team. His job was part of the financial department. His team consisted of 8 of the 15 people in the whole country that knew exactly how this specific part of the financial system worked and how the laws were applicable. In the last 20 years, my dad was traveling all across the country, teaching his knowledge to everyone who paid a lot for those courses. He even helped to design many laws regarding this topic. My dad knew for the last 10 years in his job that he will retire, and that all his team will retire shortly after him, since the department was founded not too long ago. He told his boss and her boss's boss that they should hire some people for them to teach their knowledge. That was 10 years before his retirement. And they all told him that there is plenty of time left and everything is golden and he shouldn't worry. About 8 years later and my dad is still trying to convince them that it is urgent that they need to hire now. But in the meantime, the boss's boss has changed and now the guy just looked at him and with a really jerky voice he told him, "Why would you care about that?" He never brought up that topic again. 2 years later he retired. His co-workers who worked with him for 40 years in this department had nobody to ask when they were unsure what to do. The new team lead was some young dude who tried to teach my father's co-workers how stuff worked, just because he sat in one of the courses my dad gave a few years ago. Now that about 70% of the department is retired, the staff works really slow and the department has to reach out to lawyers to help them. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and would like to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.